Welcome to Sage Women, the podcast for midlife ladies navigating perimenopause, menopause, and healthy aging. I'm Melanie White, and each week I talk with experts and women sharing real stories, practical insights, and smart tips to thrive through this stage of life and beyond. Hi, it's Melanie here on the Sage Women podcast, and I'm here today with Christine Garde-Denning, who is the CEO of a not-profit called CouldYou, and we're here to learn more about that and what it means for the world and for women especially. Christine, thanks for being here today.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Can you tell us a little bit about your organisation, what you do, and what your initiatives are at the moment?
Yes, we are on a mission to end period poverty by 2040. And we didn't start out here. We started out the nonprofit in 2008. We started in Mozambique with an intention of working on literacy projects with provincial government. But what happened during that time, that work was really good and still important work, but it was brought to our attention that 93% of the girls were starting kindergarten and 11% were in secondary school, so seventh grade, and 1% to college.
Wow.
You can't build a nation with no girls. And so we were asked by local, provincial government and local NGOs to say, what is the gap? Why? And is there anything we can do to close the gap? That's when I reached out to people from across Africa who knew better than I would what the issue was. And what we found was there might be 12 reasons that keep a girl from completing her secondary school education. But the one solvable issue is period poverty, something that until that moment I didn't know about. When I learned about it, and I learned that it's impacting 500 million women and girls around the world every month who can't afford products. When I learned that it's here in America and in Europe and really it's everywhere.
Yeah.
I got kind of fired up. And then when I learned about the menstrual cup, which has been around over 87 years, but I had never heard of it. And yet when I tried it, I felt like, why didn't I not know about this? And that's why when I started to see how well the cup was working on the ground in Africa, we pivoted completely because we can end this in collaboration with enough people. We truly could see period poverty ended by 2040.
That's a really inspiring mission, Christine. And I love that you went with a purpose to do some great work and saw an even greater need that could have a bigger impact.
Yeah.
Can you talk to the uninitiated about period poverty and maybe menstrual equity? What do those terms or sorts of terms mean? What's the concept behind it?
So period poverty is simply when you can't afford to manage your period, which that means you can't afford to buy monthly tampons and pads or whatever you would use for your menstrual cycle. And it has really deep implications. So whether it means you miss school, and that's girls right here in America who truly are not going to school 3 to 5 days every month because they can't afford products, or whether it means you wear a product, a pad or a tampon for way too long. I've heard of girls were telling me they wear the tampon for 16 hours because they don't have enough tampons. That's a recipe for toxic shock syndrome.
Yeah.
Or whether even harder realities that they say, ever since COVID, the number of girls having transactional sex for a box of pads has increased. So has STIs, HIV, child marriage, and teen pregnancy, all directly correlated. And so there's community implications for period poverty. Menstrual equity really is the sense of girls should not be lacking or not thriving because of a natural thing like menstruation. And so the menstrual equity piece is a bit more evolved in it should impact policy. So there's no, in a real ideal world, you would not have any taxes on a tampon or pad or cup because it's not a luxury item, it's a necessity. You'd have legislation that is including making sure that a basic need is met. You would also have less stigma, more education, and ideally, if you're going to require, I think, a school uniform around the world, we ought to be thinking about adding $1 a year solution so that the girls can actually put the uniform on and go to school when they're bleeding.
Gosh, that's huge. And particularly, I think the thing that really got me just then in what you said was the fact that girls are having transactional sex to get menstrual products.
Right.
That's shocking.
And that's what drives me. I didn't know that was a thing. I didn't realize it was real. And it is real. Our teams across the continent of Africa are talking to girls. We have a baseline survey. It's anonymous, but they get to enter in. Are they or have they had transactional sex for pads? They mentioned it at the World Health Assembly in Geneva that it's increased so much. So that makes me crazy. And it's what motivates me. It's why I am so passionate. Plan International had a funded study out of Ghana in the WA East recently in the last 2 years that said 83% of adolescent girls in the WA East were having sex for pads. Now, 89, that's 83%. When I heard that, we were like, this is someone's daughter. We can't sit by and do nothing, especially when we knew that the cup was working in that country. So we actually did a pilot in the WA East with 2,000 girls, and we're able to give them all a cup and then follow up with our monitoring and evaluating specialist. After 7 months, we had 97% acceptability. So that's 97% of 2,000 girls who don't miss school, don't miss work, and don't have to have sex with a boda driver because they want to get to a box of pads. And so for me, it feels like podcasts like this matter because people need to know the seriousness of the issue and they need to know the solution. We ought to be providing a reusable pad for younger girls and a reusable cup for older girls.
Wow, I'm actually a bit speechless. That's incredible. And thank you for your work. I mean, it's nothing to come for that to come from me, but I know that women listening to this, men listening to this, will be thinking this is a significant issue that needs support, and it's people like you driving these solutions that are going to make a huge difference to the lives and livelihoods of girls in these areas. And I'm also wondering how you develop a program like this when resources are limited in a country like that.
Right, right. I think the beauty is we are training the trainers, so we do not build offices or build team members. We don't create a big institution. We get a lot done on a smaller budget compared to the large organizations. And that's because what we are is an add-on. So where you come into a country and you look for who are the best organizations that already exist, that are already doing good sexual health and reproductive work. You vet them, and then they're in the community. They're trusted. They're good at what they do, but maybe they just can't afford a sustainable product, or maybe they don't even know that a product like that is out there. You teach them about the cup. You give it to them for free so they can test it. They use it. They love it. Eventually, they are your trainers. You train them on how to teach about how to use it, clean it, store it. You then, because we bring the product at $10, so if we raise money, hypothetically, I raise $5,000. That means I'm able to provide 500 menstrual cups to these NGOs that in this one scenario. As part of the $10, it doesn't only provide the FDA-registered cup, but it also provides our teams, our local trainers will teach on the whole product. They will follow up with them for 3 months. They give them access to a chatbot and a nurse, and they give them our materials. They collect baseline data and endline data. They hire marginalized women to make the cotton carry bag, and underemployed youth are hired to help with data collection. So for $10, you literally get an entire package, and it's why we can do it at scale. If we had the resources, we've already embedded everything we need into the 10. We've identified so many NGOs in each country. So on average, we might have 25 partners. They're already good partners. They're trusted in the communities. So with our piece, we are a very small piece to a bigger puzzle, but I think the small piece is really an important piece that's often missed.
You've obviously done your budgeting and you're really stretching $10 to go a long way. And I'm hearing also the value of those on the ground partners with the existing relationships that cut through quicker and get the product into the hands of the people that need it in a situation where there's already trust and rapport built.
Right. I mean, otherwise, I'll give you an example of something that happened in Uganda. A group who didn't have the right relationships, right, didn't go through the correct channels, ended up bringing menstrual cups into a poor community. Well, a father found out and assumed that his daughter was being given this product by the government or America or both to sterilize her. The assumption was, you don't want us to have children. He went on social media and it went viral inside Uganda. Everything he was saying wasn't true, but it doesn't matter. He was terrified. So you look at that and you think, it doesn't matter if you have money or no money. Every parent has a right to make a choice for their daughters. They have a right to ask questions, to buy in. Like, if you don't start at the community, don't start at all. And so allow the community to learn about it, and then they will ask for it, so that you're not trying to go in and sell a product or sell a solution. You're listening, and then you're offering something you know about, and either they will ask for it or they won't ask for it. But that's how you get fathers like that to ask all the questions up front and then decide, is this something I want my daughter to try or not? Maybe he says, let me start with my wife, or maybe he says my sister before he gets to his daughter.
Mm. Yeah, it really does reinforce that very important trust point for a new product and a new initiative. That's interesting. Thank you. And how long do the cups last?
10 years.
10 years.
10 years, $10, a
A
dollar a
dollar
year.
a year.
That's why I do the work. I
Yeah.
feel like people say, oh, it's too good to be true. It's not. I'm a cup user. I haven't had to buy a product in 8 years. It works. Like, so and we know it's safe. It's on every, Walmart, Target in America. We know it's across Europe. We know women in Europe, especially, were using it as early adopters because they care deeply about the environment. So they did not want a single-use product, which has plastics in the ocean and has terrible implications. And so if we know it's safe and we know it's inexpensive and we know there's a need, what are we doing? Why are we not teaching about it in our schools today?
Yeah.
Why are our high schools only talking about disposable tampons and pads? I don't know.
Mm, mm. So much has changed. I have missed the era of menstrual cups myself. But when I first started menstruating, my mum told me about these belts that you could wear and pads that you tie onto belts. And I see you looking confused, like you haven't heard of this. But
Whoa.
that's the before the modern day sanitary products. This is what it was. It was a big thick pad with a piece of fabric at each end that ties around to a elastic belt that goes around your waist. That's what my mum used. She was
Oh,
shocked to know
wow.
that there were other products around.
Okay. Wow.
So yeah, the advancements and really important point that you make about the reduction of waste
Mm.
and all of those other things. It's just so important. And I'm curious to know about some of the outcomes that you've seen in the projects that you've been working on in Africa. What are some really great stories for individuals or
Wow.
communities?
So I think we get so many testimonies via internet, web inquiries. I get voicemails, I get WhatsApp. So I have a lot of testimony that is why it's so inspiring to me. But I'm going to give an example of one that I really love. So there was some girls in Nairobi who had experienced female genital mutilation. And they're Maasai girls in their local community. They go to Nairobi to college. Now in college, they hear about the menstrual cup. They start to use the cup. They're given the cup, right? And they care deeply about ending FGM for their younger sisters, their other community members. Now it's difficult to come back to your community and now you're this college girl and you're going to come and tell the elders what not to do, right? Like maybe not the best place to start.
Yeah.
But what they did is they began to bring a 10-year menstrual solution to the communities, their own communities. And then as a way to begin to have conversations around menstruation and practices, a natural listening conversation, right? These listening circles. it evolves into the community talking about FGM. Their end goal is to end FGM. To me, the fact that we get to be a small part of their work is a gift because I love what they do. And I love that we also get to give a 10-year solution, but they're smart. They know what they're doing. And so I find that really interesting because wouldn't it be great if their elders did choose? And it's working. They're seeing decrease of FGM in their communities and they're seeing girls menstruate with dignity. To me, that's like a beautiful idea, an example of what it means when you partner with the right people,
Mm.
creative things happen that were beyond what you could have done on your own.
Yeah, I'm wondering if the menstrual cup was pivotal to starting that conversation.
It's pivotal to being invited into a community. So every community that we're working in, we only go to the communities that are really struggling and can't afford pads. And so they welcome a conversation around a 10-year solution. So the very first conversation, it's what almost opens the door to the invitation to come. Absolutely. It's what starts the conversation.
And then all of those broader things that are relevant for female sexual health,
Right.
menstruation,
They come up.
pregnancy. Yeah.
It comes up because part of what we know is important. We love listening circles, this idea that the very first thing you should do in a community is listen. And if you want to talk about puberty and you want to talk about menstruation, listen first. What are your practices? And this can even be from people from within the community or these girls that came back from Nairobi, this idea of tell us. And now you get grandmothers and younger people and boys, and like you get everyone in to be able to have a conversation that's just listening. It's through that might be a community workshop that lasts 3 hours. But at the end of it, you get something really powerful, a better understanding of what some of the taboos are. It's where you start to hear things that are taboos that need to be broken, that say, if you are menstruating, you cannot cook, you can't cross the river, you can't go to your house of worship or your school, or even we've heard you can't, if you're a farmer, you cannot be next to your crop or it will kill the crop. Well, that's awful because now they can't work.
Mm.
Well, how do you address that if you don't even know what the myth is? Listen deeply, and then you can start to spend, when we are there for 3 months, or our teams are there for 3 months, they can start to address those things because taboos and myths are one of the things we care deeply about.
Mm. Gee, it starts with the menstrual cup.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty powerful.
Mm.
I think through this conversation, I've heard you talking about some systemic barriers. What do you think we could do? What's one thing we could do at a societal level, at a policy level, that's going to make these cups accessible to more women? It's a big question.
Depends on what country you're in, but I can tell you if you're in America, here's this, no matter what country you're in, here's what you should do. You should find out, are there any policies in your country? I'm sure there are, that are already giving out free products. Lots of countries in Europe and America are doing it. Lots of states in America are doing it. And find out if they're limiting their distribution to just disposable tampons and pads. Now, I heard in Europe, some of the countries are doing it a bit different. They're adding the cup like Ireland is. And I think even Australia, I was told they've allowed the cup in. But they're in the for, they're progressive. That is not the case in America. Our bills were written in America, and in the legislation, it says the definition of a menstrual hygiene product is a disposable tampon or pad. They've already eliminated the fact that they're giving school kids in America dispensers with disposable tampons and pads. That means girls don't have access to a product on nights, holidays, weekends, or summers. And they're spending more money to serve less. Change the language, and we know it's possible because New York City changed it. Amanda Farias, out of her district in city council in New York City, literally rewrote the bills, added 4 new bills, 1 got enacted, and they've now added the cup. So having these conversations actually matter. You can get to the right person who can change. It's so simple. Just change the language in the legislation. There are countries in Africa that are spending between $7.5 million and $35 million to provide disposable pads to their girls for the whole year. yet each girl gets between 8 and 12. That's throwing money away. We need to be doing more awareness campaigns. We need to be talking to more key decision makers
Yeah.
so that we can start reallocating some of this money that's out there, whether it's foundation money, whether it's businesses that are giving CSR money, or whether it's governments. Many, 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 many of them are addressing this issue. All of them say it's important. None of them are putting their money into the cup. To me, it makes no sense. So I feel like we've been this like little engine who could, begging everyone, just listen, just listen. And I think we're starting to see some real strides in the right direction, but we're really far from breakthrough.
Mm. So then my natural question is, how do we help you? How does the person listening to this episode support your work, help
Yeah.
your organization?
Well, having me on is a really big gift. So thank you. And we really believe that we can change the narrative the more people engage in the conversation. So we would ask that you follow us on social media. We are CouldYou Cup, CouldYou Cup, on Instagram, on Facebook, on TikTok. We're the real CouldYou Cup. I would say follow us, engage with us, continue to share about period poverty with the people that you are engaging with. Also, if you want to donate, a $10 donation helps one girl for 10 years. That's significant. And if you're a business and you want to give CSR money, we're a really good return on investment. If you're a foundation, if you are a policymaker, there's room for everyone because we've served 200,000 vulnerable women and girls. Our wait list is 2 million. So there's room for every $10 and there's room for $1 million. And so we would say, if you are interested, you could reach out and engage with us on social media. You can find us at info@couldyou.org. And we're working in so many different countries that I'd say whatever country you're in, still reach out because we need everyone in the conversation. And
Yeah.
we think that we can make a difference if we all come together.
That's amazing. So I'm hearing a lot of opportunities there. There's firstly, following you is part of raising awareness and
Yeah.
spreading the word. And there's the ability then to start conversations with people you know and change the language. And then there's the ability to donate
Yes.
$10 for
And
10
if you're
years.
a Rotarian, I put this out there too. The Rotary has been great to us. I joined the Rotary a few years ago, and I'm part of something called the Empowering Our Girls Rotary Action Group. I love the work that Rotary is doing. And so we have a lot of opportunities for Rotarians to get involved as well.
That's fabulous, Christine. Thank you so much. Before we wrap up, I want to really understand, how did you get into this work?
Into this work in nonprofit space or just the CouldYou Cup?
Nonprofit.
So, I mean, I'm 56. In my early 20s, I was working at a job in San Diego. I had my own minds attached to my own faith journey where I had this sense of, I want to make a difference. I want my life to matter. I started asking bigger questions about what is this all for? Like, what is it all about? I began to think about, how can I make a difference? And so as a young person in my early 20s, I started running gang diversion programs in San Diego County for HUD. I moved into the neighborhood. I was the only white person doing the work in this gang work. I learned to listen. I learned to see the value of people who are often underrepresented, but are really interesting and have great ideas. I began to really pour my life into that work in the inner city. I did that. I've only done two things my whole life. I did inner city work with gang members and at-risk students, and now this. And then after a while, I learned about what was happening in Africa and how I didn't know. I'd never been. When I traveled there and I saw that there was so much that we could do that could really make a difference, even on a bigger scale, I began to take everything I learned from the gang work and began to build relationships with African leaders and start to say, collectively, let's pick a few issues and see if we can bring the West in, but let Africa lead. And let's see if we can find a few things to end. And our first one is period poverty.
Wow. I'm hearing that you're a real visionary, Christine, and you're determined, and purpose matters to you, and you found your
It does
purpose.
matter. Yeah,
Yeah.
it does matter. And here's what I'd say. I can end it by saying, I read a book once called Let Your Life Speak, and Parker Palmer wrote it. And there was a quote in there by Frederick Buechner, and it said, "True self happens when your deepest gladness and the world's deep need meet." I think our world would be a much better place if each person thought, what do I care about deeply that bothers me in the world? What issue matters? What am I good at, and how can I do something towards that one issue? Whether that issue is elderly, animals, the environment, all of us should pick something and do something. And if we all do our one little thing, we wake up to a world that is a way better place.
That's a great way to finish, Christine. And I love that sentiment. Thank you so much for coming on today, for
Thank you
speaking
for
with us,
having
for
me.
sharing your passion, and we'll be sure to share this episode far and wide.
I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.